I'm so gone. Anyone could see that I'm wasted. You cut through, and I just wanna know what's in your head. Write it on a piece of paper, honey. Put it in my coat before I go. Hidden in a place you know I'll find it. Oh, later when I'm sitting all alone, let me in. Everything starts at your skin, so new. Your love's always finding me out. Who am I kidding? If all my defenses come down, ah, baby, will you lay it all on me now? Lay it all on me now. Lay it all on me now. Lay it all on me now. Snow comes down. Everything is new, different. I found you, hidden in plain sight. Why'd it take so long? Write it on a piece of paper, honey. Put it in my coat before I go. Let me in. Everything starts at your skin, so new. Your love's always finding me out. Who am I kidding? If all my defenses come down, ah, baby, will you lay it all on me now? Lay it all on me now. 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 Love's always finding me out. Who am I kidding? If all my defenses come down, ah, baby, baby, will you lay it all on me now? Lay it all on me now. Lay it all on me now. Lay it all on me now. Lay it all on me now.
Welcome to 88.7 KWDM. The Point. This is the Before the Buzzer morning show. I'm Britton Morrow alongside Noah Seaver and Ian Nelson, and we will be joining you at 7:50 every Monday morning to recap the latest weekend in the sports world. So let's pass it over to Noah to talk about what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, so this morning we will discuss the Valley Boys basketball sub-state semifinal win over Urbandale last Friday. We're going to preview the Valley Girls basketball state quarterfinal later this morning and highlight some of the biggest college basketball action from the weekend. So pass it over to Britton to get things started.
So yeah, first talking point is the Valley Boys basketball 77-46 win over Urbandale last Friday. They advanced to the sub-state final. They'll take on the Norwalk Warriors. The Tigers really just dominated, led 10-6 after the first quarter, and then after that just blew the game open. Urbandale went in a zone defensively, and it really got to Valley. They couldn't hit a lot of threes early on in the first quarter. But then once they started figuring out that zone and getting a lot of transition points, I mean, the matchup really wasn't even close.
Yeah, and it just didn't seem that Urbandale had any response to anything of what Valley was doing. It just kind of felt like anything that Valley did, Urbandale tried to do better, but just failed to do it in any attempt.
Yeah, absolutely. And some of Urbandale's top scorers, Grant Eaker, Calvin Flood, couldn't really get going at all. Their guards were held in check by the Valley defense. Leading scorer for the Tigers was Curtis Stinson. He looked at his best. He's really good in transition, getting downhill and finishing over the defense.
I mean, yeah, I think it's important for the Tigers to start faster than they have been in these past couple games and get the offense rolling. The defense is going to be there. They're going to bring intensity, but if they can start scoring, I think they're unstoppable.
Absolutely. So they'll move on to the sub-state final later this week, and they'll play Norwalk, led by Riddick Bourne, the brother of Bowen Bourne, the UNI guard. So he's very good. He had 27 points in Norwalk's win over Council Bluffs Jefferson in the sub-state semifinal. So that'll be a really good matchup. I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, and I think that it's going to be not only a great matchup like what you said, but going to be very physical on both sides because, Norwalk is a very physical team with the Bourne, and then Valley on the other hand, who has been physical all year. They kind of were lessened by injuries throughout the season. But I think now that all Valley is healthy and Norwalk has been healthy majority of the year, it's going to be a great basketball game and very physical.
And the Tigers already beat them this season by 10 points, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be another great game, a rematch of the quarterfinal matchup I know from last year's state tournament. So it's going to be a great game, and whoever wins is going on to the Wells. So it's going to be pretty electric, I'd have to say.
For sure, that earlier matchup was a 51-41 Tigers win. Expect big man Trevin Yurok to certainly have a mismatch inside as he does most games at 6'10", right? So, anything left to add on that point?
I don't think so. The game is on Tuesday?
No, it's later this week. I believe it's Friday.
Actually, I think it's Tuesday.
Is it Tuesday? Okay.
It's tomorrow, 7 p.m. at the Wells. No, not the Wells. Lincoln.
Yeah, I believe so.
It's a neutral site court. So then, staying on state tournament, the Valley girls play Johnston today in a couple of hours at 10 o'clock this afternoon or early morning, and some things to think about for the game. The last two previous matchups for Valley versus Johnson has won both of them 67-50 and 59-22, both won by Johnston. But I think Valley, they had a late end of the season loss to Ankeny by 53-46, but then they really rebounded after that by beating Iowa City Liberty 52-33, and then a last-minute bucket to shock Ankeny, who they lost to 39-36. And then Johnson, they have just been dominant all year, undefeated, 23-0 record. They beat Des Moines North 79-23, and then Sioux City West 91-53, both in the regionals to make it a state. And they have won majority of their basketball games by 20 points or more. So this is going to be a very, very good game. I think the Tigers know what they're going into. A very good Johnson team who are nationally ranked, who can score very easily. So I think the Tigers just have to have spectacular defense and score on every offensive possession.
Yeah, I think you're not going to outscore that Johnson offense, so I think you really need to step up defensively. And, having played them 2 times already, you know what you're getting into, and it's still a tall task for them to complete the upset over an undefeated team. But I think that if they're getting it right early, I think it's going to be a good game, and it's going to be pretty close down the stretch.
Yeah, Johnston's certainly the favorites to win this state tournament, but I like how Valley can get them early, right? They've had a week to prepare for them. If they would have played them in the semifinal, you'd be coming off a quarterfinal win, and you'd have less time to prepare. But those Johnston guards, Eiley Tankey, Jenica Lewis, they're really tough to defend, and then Amani Jenkins inside. They just don't have a weakness, right? So it's going to be an uphill battle for the Tigers, but they certainly got to try to make it a defensive game. The more low scoring it is, the better chance they're going to have to win it. If it turns into a shootout, they probably won't have much of a chance. So we'll see what Elise Yeager and company can do.
Yeah, and to your point, I was going to mention Elise Yeager, who the last about week and a half or so, we wondered because she didn't end the Ankeny game with an ankle injury or something of the lower leg. And so we wondered how well the Tigers could do in sub-state. And the Tigers responded with back-to-back wins. And Elise Yeager came in to the game against Iowa City Liberty, not starting, but she came off the bench and really showed how physical of a player she can be even despite an injury. And if it does come to a shootout, to your point, Britton, I think Elise Yeager has to get inside and get those easy layups. But also Elin Litt, she has to find the open looks. The Tigers have to dish the ball out to her, and she has to get hot from three. Because we have seen when Elin Litt gets hot from three, good things happen for the Tigers.
Yeah, I think having 2 points in that Ankeny game, obviously it was a big bucket down the stretch, but she's going to have to step up as a senior going into a tough matchup in the state tournament. I think it's going to have to be Yeager and Litt to step up for the Tigers.
Yeah, and whether it's a high-scoring game or a low-scoring game, like Tylee White, Carrie Rose, Elin Litt, these perimeter players for the Tigers are going to have to make shots, right? Like, I mean, it's been kind of a one-dimensional offense, like get inside. But perimeter shots are going to have to start falling if they want to beat Johnston, which it's going to be very difficult. But, I mean, this is what these seniors, specifically Yeager and Litt, have been playing for 4 years, right? So maybe the biggest game of their career.
Yeah, it's going to be a good game. So now moving on, there was a lot of good college basketball games this weekend. I don't know if you guys watched Houston at Baylor. That was a great game.
Very good.
But one sticks out to me more than the others, not because of what happened during the game, but after. So on Saturday, the 8th-ranked Duke Blue Devils went on the road to face Wake Forest. And it was a great game all the way to the end as the Demon Deacons came up on top, 83-79. And with it being a top 25 upset at home, the students stormed the court to celebrate. And amid the chaos, a student seen mocking Duke's sophomore center Kyle Filipkowski on his way to center court. The two collided, appearing to injure Filipkowski as he was helped off the court by teammates and coaches. And so his status is still up in the air. Don't know if it's a knee, ankle. It happened to the right leg. Yeah, it looks like the right knee was involved in the collision. And so I got kind of two questions for you guys. With this being kind of the second encounter with a fan and player during storming the court this season, obviously Caitlin Clark was the first. What should the NCAA do about this, if anything? And will the NCAA or schools start to make rule changes in the coming season regarding court storming?
Yeah, that's been the discussion ever since that happened Saturday. I heard reports about a sprained ankle for Filipkowski. I don't know if that's confirmed or not, but I mean, with all this discussion, the one thing you can't do, in my opinion, is not do anything. Because if you watch that clip, I feel like it could have been worse. Because it was like a stampede of fans. They could have ran over him, to be completely honest. So what I would propose is maybe do something where you like put a timer on the scoreboard, 20 seconds, 30 seconds. After the game, give time for the opposing team to get off the court, get into the locker room, and then storm. And if fans rush before that, start being stricter about what you're doing, about the punishments. Because, I mean, this is kind of ridiculous. But at the same time, storming the court is such a big part of, like, upsets in the college basketball landscape. So it's hard to just ban them in general.
Yeah, and as a college basketball, I think for all three of us, we like the idea of court storming, but to your point, Britton, the 20, 30-second timer would be a good idea because it not only allows for everybody to get off the court, but allows the refs and all, like, loose objects that may have been on there from the game can be moved, so not only do the players not get injured, but also fans don't trip on, like, a stray basketball. And another, like, court storming incident, I think you might have mentioned Caitlin Clark earlier in the season. I don't remember who they were playing, but it just so happened that Caitlin Clark got bumped and got the wind knocked out of her. But Caitlin Clark is a number one player in the country right now for college women's basketball. And if she would have been out for a long period of time or even the rest of the season, it could have been very bad for not only the state of women's college basketball, but also college basketball as a whole, because the amount of revenue that Caitlin Clark has brought in for basketball, for college basketball, is just unprecedented.
Yeah, and it's kind of just a shame because this took away from what was such a huge game. Wake Forest won 83-79. It was an absolute shootout going up and down. Hunter Salas, the Gonzaga transfer, Wake Forest guard, had 29 points, 11 of 13 from the floor, only missed 2 shots. Austin Carr had 18. It was a marquee win for Wake Forest that really, really put them in a great position to make the NCAA tournament. But, yeah, to your point a little bit, Ian, it's happened to Caitlin Clark and now Kyle Filipowski, which are 2 of the biggest players in their respective sports. But, I'm sure this has happened to some, smaller level players that don't get the attention because they're not as big nationally. So, I doubt this has only happened 2 times this year, right?
Well, yeah, and I was watching the video of, the court storming, and at the end they panned over to the Wake Forest coach, and it just didn't seem like he was all that thrilled with the amount of people that was on the court. So you also wonder how much, is there a full reason onto why it's happening? Because I get, it's a big thing, you want to celebrate with everybody. But also, there are so many risks that happen with court storming. Do the rewards of being able to get on the court and celebrate with the players, do that outweigh the risk of maybe injuring your own player, injuring an opponent's player, injuring a coach or official? So just, I think not only do fans, but also NCAA officials and regulation people, they need to think what are the risks if we continue letting court storming continue on just right after game, the second the horn goes off.
Yeah, because player safety has got to be number one for the college athletes. And I think Wake Forest did mention that they had, security rehearsed for if they did win the game. And, kind of mentioned that they needed to do a better job. Well, obviously you do if you're having to run in with another player. So I think being a little tighter on security would be a big step, but also kind of giving a little time for the opposing team to get off the court. Some coaches like to take a timeout with a few seconds left to get their guys off the court. Just being smarter about that, but also just for the fans to kind of wait, give them time to get off the court, and don't try and run into a college athlete. You're definitely not as big as them, and you could get injured yourself or end up injuring a player. So it's crazy, and it'll be interesting to see what they do with now it happening twice.
Because you've seen some people on social media say, not blame Kyle Filipowski, but say, he shouldn't be in the middle of the court. It's these guys aren't worried about, they just played a hell of a basketball game. They're not worried about the students coming onto the court, right? They're worried about, the game. They're focused on the game. But both head coaches, Steve Forbes for the Wake Forest and John Shire for Duke. John Shire said afterwards that he wants to see, obviously, some change because he's worried about his player safety. Steve Forbes also agreed and was kind of apologetic about what had happened.
Well, yeah, and you mentioned Kyle Filipowski, how people were blaming him. The thing with the Wake Forest game, the second the horn went off, thousands of Wake Forest fans were on the court. It was the snap of the finger, and the entire court was filled of Demon Deacon fans. So it was he had no chance of getting off the court, and neither did any Duke Blue Devil. Because what do you want them to do, to teleport into the locker room? There was no chance for them to make it to the other side of the court because they were still trying to get a chance to make a late-minute basket and maybe a foul to tie the game. Although those chances were improbable, they were still fighting to the end. And how can you blame a guy who fought for 60 minutes to win a very highly contested basketball game and then out of pure accident gets rammed into while Wake Forest was storming the court and gets injured? You can't blame that guy. You can kind of blame the Wake Forest fans, but it's just very unfortunate of what happened.
Yeah, I think it's another unfortunate event in NCAA basketball as a whole. And like Britton, you said, it takes away from the big upset, top 10 team. I think it it kind of overshadows the game as a whole, which really was a good game, and it's unfortunate to see, honestly.
I mean, yeah, because it was a Saturday full of, like, huge games, and then the main story coming out of it was something not even involved with the actual basketball action. So, yeah, that's for sure a shame. You mentioned a little bit. We'll hit this real quickly. But Houston also won at number 11 Baylor 82-76 in overtime to stay atop the Big 12. They have a chance to move to number 1 today after the current number 1, UConn's loss middle of the week to Creighton. You guys want to add any quick notes to that?
I know that Creighton-UConn game was electric. They always have a good home crowd, and you knew it was going to happen at some point at UConn Falls, but I think they're fine. And those are the 2 top teams for me right now. Looking ahead to March, I think anyone in the top 15 could win it. But I say UConn and Houston right now for me are my top 2.
And I think for the Houston point, that just kind of shows you that any team in the Big 12 can really shine. Houston on the road, a very good team. Baylor is an electric atmosphere. So they just, you can really show who can win in the Big 12. It'll come down to early March.
Yeah, for sure. So, like we said, the girls play today at 10 a.m. at the Wells. If you're going to go, be there, be loud to cheer on your Tigers. And then don't forget that the boys play at Lincoln against Norwalk Tuesday, tomorrow night, for a chance to go to the boys' state tournament.
Yeah, that girls' game tips in less than 2 hours. So that'll do it. Thank you, everybody, for joining us on 88.7 KWDM. I'm Britton Morrow alongside Noah Seaver and Ian Nelson. This was the Before the Buzzer Morning Show, and